This is Sean Callahan with USA MedBed, back for part 2, talking about Theraphi, MedBeds, plasma energy, and the meditation cube. So I'm here with James on his channel, and a lot of people with various programs, SSP and other programs that are off-planet, are obviously very familiar with MedBed technology. The MedBed technology and the term MedBeds has a wide variety of different annotations as far as what it could be used for, what it actually is. Plasma energy is the focus that we're going to talk about that has to do with the Theraphi system, which we also refer to as a plasma medbed. And so the plasma technology with the Theraphi, we're going to pick up and go a little bit more into that. The first video we did sort of a whole range of different products and what they did. We got into the plasma fire, which is a little bit smaller, but we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the Theraphi system. Now, the Theraphi system is basically 2 plasma energy tubes filled with noble gases. They have a generator that basically produces the energy. It's 200,000 watts. That's going to hit those glass tubes. It has a RF frequency generator that's going to throw off a spectrum of frequencies into those tubes, and they're going to perform something called phase conjugation. Phase conjugation basically can be referred to many ways. I refer to it as it's centripetal, which is spiraling inward. And I refer to it many times as a whirlpool spinning in, with one whirlpool spinning one direction, the other one spinning the other direction. But it's also very commonly referred to as pine cones kissing noses, to get into real sacred geometry. Now, the plasma technology and the Theraphi technology picks up and moves on from earlier technology with Nikola Tesla, Royal Raymond Rife, and others, Georges Lakhovsky, and it gets into what I would call 3rd generation technology. So initially, a lot of this technology started off as single tube technology, but with the work of Mr. Daniel Winter and Mr. Paul Harris and other scientists, primarily with those 2 gentlemen, they figured out and realized that if you could get in the tube, that would actually be the best place. So rather than a single tube that's emitting frequencies outward, and even with Rife technology where you're individually picking individual frequencies to run, this is going to throw a full bandwidth of frequencies. And so when you have 2 tubes and you're in the middle, you're basically what we would call the 0 point. And by performing this thing called phase conjugation, or this process called phase conjugation, you're basically now getting a much higher level of technology or a higher level of application. So a gentleman named Priore out of France also was using a lot of plasma energy technology. And so the Theraphi system ties into early technology in the early 1900s, once again with Rife, Tesla. It gets into 2nd generation technology, which is Mr. Priore. And then you get into what I call 3rd generation technology. But I think, James, what really gets cool, really gets fun, is that this technology is actually inscribed in hieroglyphics in Egyptian stone. So it does tie into technology that actually we're rediscovering, and technology that was around many thousands of years ago, which actually gets into Anunnaki and gets into other off-planet conversations. So let's talk a little bit about the Theraphi initially. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go into a little bit of the technology on what its really best application is going to be, not necessarily 3rd dimensional reality, but actually 4th and 5th dimensional reality. And then we can talk about the Anunnaki and kind of finish off with that. So Theraphi, okay, basically, like I said, 2 plasma tubes spinning, pine cones kissing noses, hitting an implosion point, basically releasing this spectrum of frequencies, golden mean frequencies, which actually is Planck times golden ratio, which is where you find some of the most powerful frequencies that have been discovered. And that's actually where it gets very interesting, because you're finding that the frequencies that Tesla, Rife, Lakhovsky, Priore, they were all finding these frequencies and finding that they were beneficial. But it was actually the work of Mr. Daniel Winter who looked at that and said, oh my goodness, these are actually if we started plotting these are actually Planck times golden ratio, and then putting that together, figuring out that this really was a spectrum of frequencies or a golden ratio of frequencies, and then incorporating that in the technologies, dialing all these down to 1/1000th or even tighter to really get these frequencies dialed in. So those two whirlpools, or those two centripetal spiral inward forces hit. As that happens, that energy field becomes recursive, meaning it starts cycling inwards and outwards, right? Almost like the shape of a heart, which is in fact the way our biofields work, the way trees work, the way the earth works, the way the universe works. It's actually working on that exact same pattern. So basically what's happening now is as that plasma energy field becomes recursive, it's becoming a mindful and intelligent energy field. So now you're in a mindful and intelligent energy field, and now there's something called intention, which also plays into that. So as you're getting into using this technology and you're finding out that you're actually in a mindful and intelligent energy field, it does change the parameters of why you're actually in there and what it can actually be doing. Now, the term medbed can be used a lot of different ways in the medical industry as a guy that provides ICU beds to ALS, MS, quadriplegic, paraplegic, and a whole host of different medbed technologies. I think we all are very familiar that in many circumstances, including this one, we're referring to technology that's being talked about, that's being used off planet in various programs, and perhaps even in DUMBs and different places around within high-level government programs. This is medbed technology where we're talking about age regression, we're talking about regrowing of limbs, we're talking about different types of energy healing per se. And this technology that we're going to talk about today is not necessarily age regression. It's not reverting you back to a 20 and back program type technology. It's not the holographic technology. It is a technology, however, that's very powerful. And we're going to get into possibly how it was used by the Anunnaki, why it was actually here, and then circle back with some of that. So third dimensional reality, bodily issues, right? Our bodies are obviously composed of a lot of cells. There's a lot of what we call biofields within the body. And when people hear the word medbed, the first thing is basically they're freaking out because something within their bodily composition is not in tune. Something has, what I would say, gone sideways. And so this whole term medbed is unfortunately not being used and not being categorized as something that you want to do to avoid or prevent anything from going sideways. It's not being talked about or really presented in a way where you want to raise your frequency and get into a higher level of clairvoyance, collective consciousness, Akashic record, all these other different benefits that go with it. And so we're going to just kind of start with the basic first layer, which is everybody's freaking out. I've got some sort of bodily issue, a third dimensional bodily issue. I need a med bed. Okay, so does the plasma technology interact with that? Does the technology have potential for that? Do med beds actually do that? I think that the best way to answer that question is to go to Super Soldier Talks, go to other channels that are out there that have documented, the type of medbed technologies that are out there and really get an understanding to figure out that they go under multiple classifications and multiple different types of features. That's always going to be one of the first places you can start. The second place you want to start is research the work of Nikola Tesla, research the work of Royal Raymond Rife, and research the work of Priore, who worked with plasma energy and actually have a lot of documented science of exactly what they did with it, how they were able to dial in frequencies, learn a little bit about the history of it, and really get a good understanding. Because then when you're talking about the Theraphi and the plasma medbed technology, you can enter the conversation as an educated person. There's certain questions, obviously, that you can ask that we're always going to be happy to answer. And there's certain questions you won't need to ask because you'll have done a little bit of your own due diligence. You'll have done a little bit of your own research. And so when we're dealing with these plasma energy systems, the first thing I'll say as a disclaimer is that this is for basically compiling it it's still in an experimental phase, I guess is probably a great way of saying that, with the Theraphi technology. This is not classified as a medical device. It should never be substituted for getting a sound medical advice for any type of health situation. And so if you do have a health condition, please consult with a physician. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and move forward. Now, there are some things that this technology does that are absolutely mind-blowing. And as somebody that's been able to represent and provide the technology, even myself, I have a hard time getting my head around it. It's very hard to comprehend that an energy field can be mindful and intelligent. And so when you start trying to get your head around it, technically you can understand it, but there is something that we call a Rudra process. Rudra meaning recognize, understand, demonstrate, realize, actualize. That's a process that even though you've absorbed information, it still takes time for you to actually disseminate that and actually understand what that really means. And I'm still in that process. But when you're dealing with a live intelligent energy field, the other thing that you'll understand with this Theraphi system is that it's performing something called negantropy. And negantropy basically is the reversal of spin and the reversal of energy. And if you understand time, and time actually being a third dimensional element or something that can be altered and messed with, you're reversing spin. But when you reverse spin backwards, especially on a cellular level, it can only reverse back into perfect order. So even though things moving forward can be chaotic, when you're performing something called negantropy and you're reversing spin, you're only able to reverse that back into perfect order. So when you're dealing with technology that's performing negantropy and it's reversing things back into perfect order, then that's where you're going to start seeing a lot of things starting to happen. Now, as through the teaching of how this works, and the other disclaimer I'll make is that I'm certainly not a physicist or a scientist, but I will say I'm a student of it and understanding as I go. But all the different parts of your body have what we call a biofield, right? And so your bone tissue is different than your muscle tissue, which is different than your brain tissue, your blood, and all the other parts of your body. Everything's composed of different frequencies. Everything's composed of different molecular or cellular structure. And so one of the things that the Theraphi system does, the plasma medbed, is that it throws off a broad spectrum of frequencies. And so when that broad spectrum of frequencies goes through the body, every part of the body takes the frequency that it needs. So the bone marrow is going to need something different than the cartilage and so on and so forth. And so why is that different and what is special about that? Well, first off is that the older technology with the Rife technology, which is also very beneficial, and as a historian and a person that loves history, absolutely have a lot of respect for, you would basically get a booklet. And nowadays there's a lot of technology out there that's using Rife technology, which I would refer to as a single tube technology, where you're entering in individual frequencies into a keypad or into a grid, and they're going to run a frequency based on a very specific type of cell that you're trying to address. And so that could be literally thousands of different things. It could be third dimensional things that are sideways. They can address things like Lyme disease, Parkinson's, all these different types of things, which are all frequency that you'll find with the Rife technology. But then you can also get into the 432 hertz, which is the love frequency. There's a lot of different things that you can actually use. And so even with the Rife technology, very important to understand that 1/3 of the frequencies are for third dimensional bodily issues. Some are for positive, generating energy, generating different types of abilities. There's astral projection, there's a lot of metaphysical, and there's a lot of spiritual. So I think the focus, if I'm going to do anything in this one particular video, is to address that medbed technology, plasma energy-based technology, goes way further than your third dimensional bodily reality. It goes way further than I'll go to one when I'm not feeling so good. It goes to raising your frequency, it goes to raising your energy, and it goes to bringing you to higher places with your subtle body and your spiritual body. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the goal of this type of technology, obviously, is to do things in a way where it's raising your frequency, raising your energy, and raising the frequencies that you're running on. And what that would mean is things like lucid dreaming being the ability to separate your conscious plasma energy body from your third dimensional body. Lucid dreaming is the ability then at that point to leave the body and go travel, astral project actually, and go and visit and be in other places where your third dimensional body is at rest. And that's something that anybody that studies Indian history or India knows that sadhus and yogis and all these people from the Eastern sort of religious or Vedic, as I would refer to it, had the ability to astral project. Astral projection in India and a lot of these places is really just part of how they're brought up, with the ability to understand how to get the body into that frequency where you can do that. If you want to read books on some of these yogis and some of the sadhus, one of my favorite is Neem Karoli Baba, who was actually able to bilocate. And he was able to do that in a way where he did it with humor, where he would bilocate, be with other people, they'd be with him, and then all of a sudden they'd leave, come back, and Baba was there, and he would actually make it into a whole humorous type of thing. But these are the types of things that we're working with that are higher level abilities that are embedded within our DNA. And so knowing that we've got these abilities and knowing that we have the ability to do so much more than what we're doing is a true feature of MedBed technology, right? So in addition to that, your electrical fields, the electrical energy that your body runs off. One of the greatest things that Georges Lakhovsky was able to do with the multi-wave oscillators, and the multi-wave oscillators, he worked with Nikola Tesla on those, and a lot of these gentlemen all interacted. One of the greatest things that Mr. Lakhovsky was able to do was figure out that the body ran on energy, right? Like we all have an electrical current that we run, but that when you're young, the body runs at, we'll say, 100 millivolts of electrical energy at 35, but when you're 70, the electrical current in the body goes down to maybe, say, less than 50 millivolts. And so one of the benefits of a multi-wave oscillator wasn't just restoring the cell's oscillation rate to its perfect harmonious frequency, its healthy frequency, but it was also restoring and bringing electrical current into the body and giving the body the electrical energy that it needed to function. And so with the Theraphi system and with this plasma medbed technology, you're also bringing in and basically increasing the electrical energy that the body is running on. These are things that you want to do to maintain good health. If you're like myself or James and a lot of people we know, you go to the gym, you work out. Why do you do that? Well, you go to the gym and work out to maintain good health, to keep yourself strong. The same reason you want to be using these different types of plasma energy products and or other products that have similar function. This is not a technology that you run out and do a fire drill on because you let your body go sideways. This is not, there's so much more to this type of technology. So getting the body into higher brainwave states of theta and beta and all these different high frequency abilities that allow you to tap into Akashic records, that allow you to tap into collected consciousness, that allow you to perform lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming technically is really not far off from death itself, where the plasma energy body is basically leaving the third dimensional form. So when you're in your third dimensional form and you're able to integrate and start working with that plasma energy body, or the soul, as we might say, you're really getting yourself to positions now where you're going to be able to take memory through death, which is, thanks to people much smarter than myself, Mr. Daniel Winter and others, are some of the key things that you want to focus on while you're living, while you're still here, and living the best, healthiest life you can, the healthiest life possible, maintaining good health, living a high quality of life, and not kind of putting around, having something go sideways and then throwing the, oh my God, I need a med bed. That's certainly there. That's certainly going to be something that'll be addressed. Will there be the free med beds that'll come from the government? Perhaps. Is the technology out there? It's very well documented. I don't think we really need to talk much about that. But when could that possibly happen? And why would you want to go use that? That's really what we're addressing now in this conversation is, the ability to get out in front of this type of thing, the ability to watch what you're eating, improve your diet, start exercising, start getting access to plasma energy-based technology now or other similar technology that's going to enhance the body and give it the energy and the information that it needs to run at peak efficiency. Hyperbaric. There's so many different technologies out there, a lot of wellness centers, a lot of fantastic wellness centers, a lot of places that we consult with, a lot of places that we learn from. But this is what the goal of real plasma energy-based technology is basically getting yourself in a position where you're starting to enhance the features of what the body can do and really push yourself to higher limits. So that is really, I think, a very important thing that we don't talk about a lot, but I do think that it's something now that if you know technologies out there now, if you know that plasma energy technologies out there, whether you're using a single tube system with the Rife, whether you're using the dual tube system, the Plasmafire, which me and James talked about and demonstrated on our first video, that Plasmafire technology is 20,000 watts. Right? And so that's an entry-level technology that's fantastic that I personally use, that I have at my home, now moving into our new office, our medical equipment company, and then going into the Quantify and going into ultimately the Theraphi or the plasma medbed technology. So depending on if you have a center, a wellness center, if you want to use the technology at home, those are all things that are all available right now. So there's no reason to wait and sit around, wait for the med bed. Now, the power of the mind, we're going to talk about that. That might be our third conversation. But if you are a person that's out there and you have anything that's not going right, stop reinforcing it with your brain. Stop reinforcing it with words. Understand the power of words, the power of programming, the power of your mind. Watch videos with Mr. Joe Dispenza and other people, because your mind is a very powerful tool. It's either you're going to be in the fight to help you or it's going to be in the fight to make your matters worse. Anytime I'm around people that repeatedly say, I have this disease, I have Crohn's, I have this, I have that, and they constantly repeat it, it's a very good chance that their mind is so programmed into having it that it's going to be very hard to unprogram the mind, even if they get high levels of technology. If you're one of those people that has any of those types of issues, not necessarily naming that one particular one, visualize wellness, visualize being healthy, visualize what you want to be, stop repeating what you are. It even gets into Napoleon Hill. If you constantly talk about having no money and being broke, more than likely you probably will, because you're reinforcing and bringing that energy. That's also similarly true with your health. So these are all different layers of how you live a healthy life, maintaining a healthy mindset, a powerful mindset. The mind is an extremely powerful tool. It needs to be programmed and focused. And when we talk about intuition, but we talk about intention, intention is a plasma energy field. It's a plasma energy tornado. As talked about in many of Dan Winter's videos, you can take the power of intention and you can focus on your pinky and make your pinky tingle. But just like lifting weights, the more you focus intention, the better the energy field becomes, the more powerful it becomes, and the more things you can do with intention, with manifestation, with all these different things. It's a tool that needs to be used. The mind needs to be programmed, and it's the strength and the power of the mind that then can carry you and work and look over the body and other different things. So in conclusion, let's talk about, for just a minute, the inscriptions with the Anunnaki that are on the pyramids, or the inscriptions of the plasma energy system, which James has brilliantly got the photos of that show the actual Theraphi plasma medbed system right above the actual tubes that are inscribed in the hieroglyphics, showing that this technology was actually now being rediscovered, but was actually used thousands of years ago. So the Anunnaki, who or many would say are the actual civilization that built the pyramids, that built basically pyramids all over the world. According to many scholars, those were all done to basically maintain and hold the Earth's gravity. They were the first free energy systems. There was a lot of benefits that they had as far as being built. And it's obvious that these things were built literally hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of them just in South America. And there's way more out there, but these were built and basically put out there. And many people are crediting the Anunnaki as the civilization that brought those and built those and helped stabilize the Earth's atmosphere. Actually, the very first free energy system, and also all built on magnetic ley lines. And so all those things are things that contribute to the power of those. But one of the greatest features of these pyramids, if anybody's able to study the Bosnian pyramid, is that when you're underneath the pyramid, the frequencies and the energy created by there has a very powerful effect on many different things for healing the body. And so the Bosnian pyramid, for anybody out there, Dan Winter is on YouTube. If you can follow Dan, if you don't already know him, please go on there. But he did a video about 8 months ago with Sam from the Bosnian pyramid. This gentleman, Sam, has basically worked and helped excavate tunnels underneath the Bosnian pyramid, thousands and thousands and thousands of amazing testimonials of people that have seen amazing health benefits from being underneath these pyramids, specifically the Bosnian pyramid. And so the Anunnaki, how they got here, the whole thing, that's kind of a long story. Not going to get too deep in that today. But basically, when the Anunnaki came down and they started working on the Earth's atmosphere, they found that the Earth's atmosphere was not conducive to the atmosphere that they had came from. And so one of the benefits and one of the reasons that they created the plasma energy technology was also to help regenerate. Their bodies were aging much faster, deteriorating much faster in the Earth's atmosphere. And so the Anunnaki were actually building and using these as it's been represented, to actually help themselves regenerate and keep their bodies in better health and in better condition. So that is really an amazing thing, that we are rediscovering and using technology that was used thousands of years ago. If anybody really studies history, I think it's obvious that if they have 100,000-ton stones and all these amazing different types of things that we can't even do now, we can't make those, nor can we move 100-ton stones. There's obvious a lot of technology that was being used back in the day that these civilizations had, that we need to give them credit for. And this was done all over the world. This is done where you can't even put a sliver or a toothpick in between some of these stones. And these are 50-ton, 100-ton, even the 90-degree angles that they carved into some of the sections within some of the sculptures and some of the buildings within Egypt. We don't even really have the technology to do that now. The way that some of these things were done with no chisel marks in them. I mean, it's quite obvious that there was much more going on than perhaps we know about now. So what we're doing right now is sort of talking about medbed technology. We're talking about technology that's available now. We're talking about the ability to bring back some history and talk about off-planet technologies that many people in the SSP and the various programs out there have had access to, in a much wider spectrum and a much wider different types of technology with the age regression. Now, one real thing quick is that because the negantropy does reverse spin, it technically can reverse the cells back. Is it a 20 and back program that's reversing you back 20 years? No. But does it make the body healthier so at the age of 57, I could go in and be tested and say I have the body of a 45-year-old because of the condition and the health that I'm in, and because I'm utilizing technology that's given my body the energy to slow down the aging process? Absolutely. So I think it's important to classify the different types of technology. I think it's important to talk about the technology, and I think it's important to identify what's available right now, why we would want to use it right now, source out source out wellness centers that have the technology that you can get access to now, and understand what the true benefits of that technology can be without worrying about, do I have a serious health condition? And certainly if people do have a serious health condition, my prayers are with you. I am sending you love and healing energy. And there is technology that could possibly assist with that, as you well know, but we would certainly not make any type of health claims about that. But for anybody that's out there that's willing to do their due diligence, that wants to study the history of Mr. Raymond Royal Rife, that wants to go in and learn about what these people were doing with technology 100 years ago, that quite frankly was knocking it out of the park. Mr. Raymond Royal Raymond Rife, building a microscope that had over 5,000 working parts, that had a 60,000 time magnification, that was basically able to look at living cells under a microscope at a time when, up until maybe 10 years ago, the best we had was an electron microscope that could only look at something that was dead. These guys were working with technology was much more advanced. And then you pass it on to Mr. Georges Lakhovsky, and then Mr. Priore from France. Brilliant people doing amazing things that I don't know if you have a lot of information on that, but that is all information that if you dig, you can find. And I think that if you start looking at that and other technology and all the other brilliant scientists that have all contributed, I'm just touching on a very small number of them, but there is a lot of brilliant and amazing people that have brought a lot of fantastic things to our civilization and to our culture. In my world, every technology has benefit, almost all of them. If you're in a wellness center and you're coming in and there's multiple technologies, the only way I can talk about it to really give you a sort of a way that I would express it is that if you're a person that loves cars, and I love cars, you're going to love the Studebaker, you're going to love the 46 Mercury, you're going to love the grill on that car, you're going to love the 57 Chevy, you're going to love the Camaro, you're going to love the Impala, you're going to love all these cars, and then you're really going to love the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis. So that's how I visualize technology. It's all part of history, and it all has benefit, and it all has the ability to get you from point A to point B. So there's basically three primary ways that you can transmit and use energy. One is sound. One is going to be PEMF, or pulse electromagnetic touching, and then biophotonic energy. And so every one of these types of technologies has benefit. And so if, like we just had Melissa here from Canada working with the sound bowls and the sound frequency technology, which I've heard a lot about. I've heard the dinging. I've been around it. But I will tell you that when you're in the presence and the energy of something as cool as these sound bowls, you literally feel the frequency going right through your body. It's like, it's just so intense, and it's just incredibly, I love it. I mean, it's just, for me, I find it incredibly powerful and very euphoric is probably the best way to say it. Now, this is technology coming from monks. This is coming from Tibet. This is technology that's literally hundreds, if not thousands of years old, which is sound frequency energy technology. And the sound bowls can literally, each one have their own frequency, and you can literally have a sound bowl for each one of your chakras, and you can resonate those bowls and send those frequencies into the body, and they are very powerful, and I absolutely love them. I will say that we put a sound bowl, there's sound bowls that you put on your head, and you can hit the gong, and it literally sends the frequency from the tip of your base top part of your crown chakra all the way down through your feet. And as you do that, the frequency just, it really doesn't go away. You can literally sit with those sound bowls and run that frequency through your body until you get tired of sitting with the bowl. So they are all layers of technology. They're all layers of benefit for the body. They all have different benefits, but ultimately, the more of the technology that you embrace and get into your daily lifestyle, the better, because they all do something a little different, and they all have their own set of benefits and their own set of values. earthing grounding technology, very powerful. It's overlooked, but putting your feet basically on the ground, absorbing the earth energy, bringing electrons into the body. Another technology that's extremely beneficial, well documented with science. The Earthing movie, if you want to watch a movie that's just phenomenal, that talks about the benefits and all the different benefits of us being connected to the earth. We're little electrical creatures. The earth is a big battery, primarily nickel and iron, and it brings all this different energy into the body, extremely beneficial. If you're out there and it's summertime and you have the ability to put your feet on the ground, please do that. We provide, one of the things that we offer is a lot of grounding blankets and grounding bed sheets and all different types of things. So if you can't get outside, you get that grounding technology just by enveloping your body in it when you go to sleep at night. And so there's sound frequency, there's PEMF. PEMF frequency, a lot of PEMF technology out there which can run the frequencies just like Mr. Rife put together within his vocabulary of different frequencies, looking at what cells resonated at. But that can be done various different ways. There's actually some medbed pod type technology out there now that does PEMF, that does far infrared. Far infrared technology, extremely powerful. A lot of it has gotten FDA clearance. Hyperbaric technology with oxygenating the blood. People go back and say there was a time when the Earth's atmosphere was about 30% oxygen. Right now, I believe it's about 18%, but at the time the Bible was actually being written, you would get a lot more oxygen to the body by just being outside and breathing air. But now with the benefits of something like a hyperbaric chamber and being able to use that, you can actually now get the body oxygenated. And hyperbaric's been around for 20, maybe 30, 40 years, so that's very well documented. Anybody that's out there that's watching the video, highly recommend, if you want to get more information, type in what are the benefits of grounding? What are the benefits of far infrared? What are the benefits of hyperbaric chamber? Just do basic searches to really start seeing the documented science that's out there on all these different technologies, because it's out there. And I think many people, if you start really looking at it, will actually be very impressed at how much documented science and how many benefits there are. But as I was saying earlier, each one is a layer of technology that when you stack it and add it, it all has benefits. So the ultimate goal is to increase and incorporate as many of these technologies into your body as possible. If you get me into crystals, we might not ever get off this phone or this video today. Crystal technology, extremely powerful, extremely beneficial. James, you just saw the crystal energy spheres that we've got. We talked about those in the last video, taking a tensor coil, putting you could put amethyst, rose quartz, magnifying the energy and the power of a crystal through sacred geometry and copper spheres. And then we get into the plasma energy technology, where you have the single tube systems. Now, Mr. Rife was also using RF frequencies. It wasn't all, but Mr. Tesla was using plasma. A lot of these gentlemen actually moved into plasma. And so the difference between a single tube plasma system and something like a Theraphi is that a single tube plasma system will run one frequency at a time, and you'll pick individual frequencies, and you can target cells to be eliminated. You can do different things, but basically very powerful systems, a lot of documented history, and there's a lot of single tube plasma energy systems out there. And a lot of times they vary based on the size of the generator, the amount of energy they put off. But those are also very powerful systems. And so, when you're getting into a dual tube plasma energy system now, you're really getting to more of what I would call sort of more of a state-of-the-art system. We also have the EE system, which is also very popular system, basically also performing phase conjugation, doing it with lasers and getting the lasers to implode, creating a scalar energy field, taking the television sets to send off the biophotonic light energy. And those are really helping to open the eyes of many people on various energy and frequency-based technology that's available right now. Then you get into the plasma energy systems with the Theraphi, the Quantify, and the Plasma Fire, which basically 20,000 watts quantifies a 4 tube system that can run sound energy frequencies, and then Theraphi, which is basically 200,000 watts. That's really the most powerful system that we have, that of all the technologies that I research and look at, that is by far right now the most powerful one that I'm familiar with. But I would tell anybody that's out there, if you have a wellness center in your area, you could go look up EE system, go to theraphi.net. You can go to different places. You can contact us, go to our website, usamedbed.com. You can go to different places to find these technologies available, but you can also Google it and find technologies and even incorporate it. The goal, ultimately, even plasma energy water, which I didn't even get into, but all these different technologies really start off at a very low price point for the most part. Something like earth and grounding technology can be as little as $150, and getting that into your kind of your daily routine. Plasma energy systems with the plasma fire, maybe around $3,500, including your shipping and an app and different things. And there's a lot of technology like the wave frequency watch, a frequency watch running 1,000 frequencies, just recently upgraded, can run 1,000 frequencies into your wrist. It basically gives you 1,000 of the Rife frequency codes you can program into a watch and just walk around and wear while you're doing your daily routine. So, and that's, I want to say, about $500. So there is a lot of technology that's not real expensive. It's free to go outside and put your feet on the ground. If you're hopefully in a warm climate and a warm area, being that we're in August right now, I highly recommend you do that. Very good for reducing inflammation, stiffness, soreness, arthritis, all those different things. And incorporating that with other technologies. And it's a step-by-step approach. It's a layer by layer by layer. Do you go out and buy everything at once? No. Do you have the money to afford some of the technology now? Perhaps. A lot of this technology can be broken down into payments, because you can use systems like PayPal and different things where they break down a 4-payment process. But the whole goal, even with the Cube, which is the new technology now that I'm working with James, and working on meditation and stabilizing the mind and getting more of the energy and getting the body focused on things that you want to do and manifestation and different things. These are all different technologies that you can embrace and how they differ from one point to another. This is a new technology, just getting introduced to this, but this is really the goal, is to integrate, find, research, and put together as many different technologies as possible. And this right here is the Zen Master, the Meditation Cube. And so this is a technology right here that basically uses a lot of sacred geometry that you're going to find that's used in pyramids. It's going to embrace and use a lot of different frequencies and energies that you get from crystals. And this is something here now that'll also help enhance meditation. And it's a device that you can get that's not very expensive. I want to say ballpark about $500, and basically put that to use to focus the mind on what you're looking for, what you want to achieve, good health, centering the mind, reducing stress, all these different types of things. So our goal, and you know that I'm in the medical industry, and none of these items are medical, but I do think that there will be a time when there's a lot of other options that you can look at for enhancing your health and wellness. And it doesn't necessarily need to be done with medical devices, although, like I said, none of these are classified as medical. But I do think that it's something that the medical industry will start embracing as more research and studies are done, as more science is produced. The earth and grounding technology has got a lot of documented science. The far infrared technology now, through a lot of different studies and things that have been done, is now getting FDA clearance. So there is a lot of technology that is starting to be embraced and starting to be brought in to the medical industry. But I think that when we start looking at energy and frequency-based technology, you're going to see a lot more products like this coming, and a lot of different products that can utilize the energy and the frequency of crystals, the energy and the frequencies, or the energy of sacred geometry. And so the Zen Master, the Meditation Cube, is another new product that we're starting to work with. The Rife technology is basically using single frequencies to go for a whole host of different things. Now, we have some technology, Rife technology, that we use now that has about 3,500 different frequencies. And like I said, it could be something like Lyme disease. It could be something like enhanced meditation. It could be something like the 432 love frequency, energizing the body. It could be astral projection. It could be body, mind, spirit, right? And so when you're working with Rife technology, you're using individual frequencies. The power of the machine, the power of the generator will determine how much energy it's putting off, but you have the ability to start really looking at individual frequencies for the body based on what it is that you're looking to get assistance with. The difference between that and a Theraphi system now is that now you're performing something called phase conjugation. Now you're basically working, instead of a single tube emitting a frequency outward, you're having a dual tube system that's spiraling inward. And when they spiral inward and they hit that point of implosion, they create basically this field of energy, and also all these golden mean frequencies, a cascade of frequencies. And through the generating system, it's throwing a full bandwidth of frequencies. So you're, like we were explaining earlier, your body is getting all the different frequencies that resonate with each part of the body simultaneously. So you're really not breaking down individual frequencies one by one. You're actually getting a full golden mean cascade of frequencies simultaneously. And so the Theraphi system is running is obviously a very powerful system. And because it's throwing off all these frequencies simultaneously, it eliminates individual single frequency type technology. However, as a footnote there, the single tube technology still has a lot of benefit. It still has a lot of use, and it still has a lot of benefits. So not to say that you might not use one instead of the other. In a perfect scenario with a wellness center, you would have a Rife frequency machine that would address one or two individual things. You would have a hyperbaric chamber. You would have a PEMF. You would have a far infrared. You would have all those technologies ideally, but let's say as an example that you do want to go after a certain type of cell and perhaps eliminate that cell, which the Rife frequency technology could do. You would still probably want to finish with something that's more rejuvenating, which would be something like the Theraphi that would rejuvenate the body with the energy and with all those full spectrums of frequencies. So every technology has a benefit, every technology has a use, and every technology, if you layer them, is all going to have something that can do that's a little bit unique and a little bit different than the other types of technology. And so that would be the primary difference between the Theraphi. And the Theraphi also, because of the power of it, is going to perform negantropy. And probably the most esoteric part of it is that the Theraphi system is going to basically become recursive, the way that plasma energy field is being put out. It's going to create a mindful and intelligent energy field, plasma energy becoming intelligent, tapping into the same frequency of your DNA, which is very different than what other technologies are doing. It has a much higher level of metaphysical potential for the spirit, for the soul. And so there's certainly things that you can do with the Theraphi technology that are going to go well beyond addressing third dimensional realities with individual cells within the body. Antoine Priore, and what was the work Priore was doing? Well, it was interesting because Priore was also working with plasma energy. Now, as we were talking about earlier, Priore was really like a second generation type of technology, because Priore was basically using plasma energy, and this gentleman really was pushing the limits, literally dropping plasma energy tubes the size of torpedoes with cranes down into his lab where he was actually working with those. And Mr. Priore basically was running all these different various frequencies. Now, with the size and the energy of the tubes that he was running, it looks like he was actually performing something called negantropy, reversing spin. And one of the things that when you're reversing spin, as we talked about, you're reversing cells back to their original perfect order. And so when you do that type of spin, negantropy, then you're obviously going to see a lot of very different benefits coming from that. And so there was some research talking about how you could, make mice younger, but Priore was probably very well known for a lot of the research and a lot of things he did relating to the C word disease, which I don't really get into and talk about too much, but Mr. Priore had literally thousands, if you do the research and look at what he was doing, had literally thousands of case studies of working with the French government, actually. And so if you study history, you're going to find that the people that were really pushing the limits on a lot of this technology ended up having a lot of issues. Won't go into a lot of detail, but let's just say that they had a lot of issues where they were basically log jammed, and there was certain cases where they had untimely demise, or they a lot of people they were with basically had to shut them down. Their labs were destroyed, whatever it might be. Mr. Priore, when he got a lot of that, kind of ended up losing a lot of the work, and a lot of his research was basically shut down. There's a lot of information about that you could go and research, but you will find that a lot of the people that pushed and promoted and had this technology were really actually just real heroes, because they had to deal with a lot of things, whether it was just people that were ignorant, that didn't, understand or believe them, even with documented science. And in fact, that's actually true today. And you can actually see a lot of what they dealt with is that you might actually have scientific facts on a lot of different things, perhaps things going on in the world, but people might believe something that they heard from a third-party source on TV, and regardless of whether they do any due diligence or any research, that's their reality, and they have a natural tendency to want to, go off and attack, or, not even really take a look at the facts. So that reality really hasn't changed much. If anything, maybe in our day and age, it's amplified. But these are the types of things that these gentlemen had to deal with. But the beauty of it all is that if you look at the research and look at the things they were able to do, that was very well documented. It was usually once that documentation started coming into play that, things for them started getting a little bit dicey. But these are all things that are actually very well documented, and the work of Mr. Antoine Priore was actually very well documented. You can go look his information up on Google. Technology that can regrow limbs, technology that can make you younger. It's good that we're readdressing this once again, because at the initial part of the conversation, we're talking about different types of medbed technology, and there's a lot of really good sources out there, much better than myself, from people that are in off-planet programs or people that have access to off-planet technology. And the regrowth of limbs is not what this technology is doing. This technology is not regrowing limbs. There is some talk, and people can do research, that through the production of stem cells, we might actually have the ability to do that. However, because we're programmed that we can't do that, the body really isn't functionally doing some of the things it can do. I think that if we look at science, I think we use about 10% of our actual natural ability. Now, I did hear about some research, and this is just anecdotal. This is not anything factually based. People could look it up, that there was a program, and I want to say it was with a company. I want to say it was out of Israel, but I'm not positive, that they actually programmed the brain to say, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. And instead of us saying, oh, I can't regrow a limb, I need a technology, they actually got the mind to say, yes, you can. And through some type of modification of the brain and the mind, and through the induction of stem cells and different things, they were actually able to get the body to be able to start doing that. I think that, we know that salamanders and different things can regrow a tail. And so there might possibly be ways that we can do that with stem cells, because anybody who understands what a stem cell is knows that that stem cell can be converted to any type of cell within the body. And there is, at a young point of your time, where you're producing a lot, activating a lot of stem cells, but as we get older, those stem cells and activation of those starts to decrease. However, that can be manipulated, and there's a lot of stem cell research that's out there. We've actually done quite a few calls on stem cells. One with Dr. Mike Van Thielen, who ran a stem cell clinic, worked with over 1,000 patients, a lot of the data and things he collected. So that technology with regrowing limbs Is it available? Is it out there now to the public? Not to my knowledge. But is it talked about? Is it well documented through various off-planet programs? Perhaps. There's a lot of research. I'm sure people are hearing about it, and they're obviously hearing about it because they're hearing it talked about. So the fact that it's out there at some point in time in off-planet or even, top secret programs, that is quite possible. And I think that from what I've heard of people talking about it, it would be some type of holographic and or almost like a bioprinter where they take the DNA and they basically configure what the actual DNA would look like and then use that DNA as a blueprint to actually produce that limb. So, and that could very possibly well be coming. Now, with the plasma technology, which I was talking about earlier, which is almost classified as maybe rejuvenation type technology, there's three primary systems. Well, there's four, but with the dual tube systems that I'm working with, that I'm familiar with, there's three. We have the Rife technology. I think we've pretty well talked about single tube technology. I think we've also talked about how that single tube technology was developed and advanced by saying, look, let's put the person in the tube, meaning instead of having a single tube emitting outward, let's have two plasma energy stations, each one producing a pine cone or a centripetal spiral coming into the middle, hitting an implosion point, putting that person in what we would call a 0 point, right? And so when they do that, we would release this cascade of golden mean frequencies, which is Planck times golden ratio, which is what all these scientists have been working on. The best frequencies that they seem to come up with actually fit the Planck times golden ratio. Now, what is the difference between the plasma energy spheres, which we've talked about, and what we saw in the last video we did with James on our first video? Basically the size and the wattage, the amount of energy that they put off. The plasma fire, the plasma energy spheres being 20,000. But with the quantified system being in the middle, and that's their entry level, that can actually be a 4-tube system, and that can actually have musical frequency put into that system to run that. Now, the plasma fire, the plasma energy spheres run on an app. They also throw off a bandwidth of golden mean frequencies. You can program individual frequencies into them, but basically you can start from the toe, go all the way to the head, target any part of the body, throw off those energy frequencies. So that's going to start at the 20,000 volt or watt, 20,000 watt, and then you're getting into the Theraphi, or excuse me, the plasma fire is the interoid. Quantify is the middle technology, which is a 4-tube system. It can be dual or 4. It could be 2-tube or 4-tube, and that's going to integrate sound vibration or music into that system. And then you have the pinnacle technology, which is the Theraphi, running at 200,000 watts, and that is the system now with the amount of energy and the amount of frequencies that it's putting off is basically literally able to knock ghosts off the body. Something we didn't talk about earlier, but something that's also kind of interesting is that when you are dealing with issues with perhaps alcoholism, recreational drug use, different types of things, you're opening up holes in your aura, and astral parasites have the ability to attach. And so that is something that some people have the ability to identify with that, but many people that have been using the Theraphi system have reported seeing that literally ghosts can get knocked off the person's body from the power of the Theraphi system. There's a lot of physics that go behind that. Mr. Daniel Winter, who's the co-inventor with Mr. Paul Harris, but Dan goes in on his channel, which we promoted earlier, goes in and explains the physics of how a ghost would literally, or an astral parasite, would be knocked off the aura. But the other benefits with all these technologies is strengthening and building your aura, or your biofield, as we would say. And so these are other benefits that go with all the technologies. But those are the three primary dual tube technologies that are available right now. Dan Winter, fractalfield.com. I don't really feel like I can do justice to answer that question. I'll try my best, but you're dealing with a person that's extremely intelligent and very knowledgeable, and somebody that's basically dedicated his entire life to the science, and also been able to work with a lot of good people. You know, like minds attract like minds. Like energy attracts like energy. People that vibrate and resonate at high energy or high frequency and high intelligence obviously have those types of people around them. It's what stimulates them intellectually. It's what makes them basically keep pushing forward. And it's what really, makes great people even greater, is having good people and great people around them. So Dan looked at a lot of the research. In fact, Dan has figured out a lot of things that why Mr. Tesla wasn't able to get the free energy to work, because he was on 60 hertz and should have been on 50. He was not putting his power stations on ley lines where you have the magnetic fields, which is what they did with the pyramids. That's showing you how powerful and how smart these Anunnaki and these people building these pyramids were. They were all on these magnetic cross lines, whether it was rivers, magnetic cross lines, lava, chambers, whatever. They knew exactly where these things needed to be, and they knew what frequency to run them at. And so discovering what is gravity and, why Einstein would call it something that was spooky, because he couldn't figure out that it was actually a centripetal force implosion that was happening that was actually creating gravity. Dan was able to go in and do a lot of study. Also was able to be around some brilliant people, had some time that he spent with Marcel Vogel, just really brilliant people, worked with people that were with a gentleman named John Crane, who was a sort of a second generation person spinning off from Mr. Royal Raymond Rife. And then was able to learn about the heart coherence through studies with EKGs. But then also being able to figure out that when looking at the frequencies that Tesla had, that Lakhovsky had, that Priore were working with, and saying, wow, that's really what we would call a smoking gun, those all seem to line up almost as if they're on a musical keyboard as the song notes that would actually lead to golden mean frequencies. And so once he looked at that and said, wow, that's exactly what they were finding, is that they weren't dialed in. They didn't understand that yet. They didn't understand that dual tube technology and using phase conjugation was a more powerful way to develop that, but they were on the precipice of doing it, and had put enough research where when Daniel Winter and Mr. Paul Harris and other people, they're basically able to look at that and say, wow, okay, here's what we can do. First of all, we figure out that this is golden mean frequency cascade. We run all the cascades. We don't plug out frequency. We can go with a dual tube system and create phase conjugation, and then understanding how they can improve and how they can make it better. That's why I always refer to them as third generation scientists. All these earlier scientists did the groundwork. They were all brilliant people. They did amazing things. They dedicated their lives to basically putting out this knowledge and this technology. And for what they were doing, even to this day, is exactly mind-blowing. But you have some really brilliant minds, and our third generation scientists that we've got that are really pushing science forward right now. Mr. Daniel Winter is definitely at the top of that list. So I'd like to announce that we've just opened up a new facility here in Richmond, Virginia. It's going to be a facility where we interact and incorporate a lot of traditional medical technology, surgery centers, imaging equipment, ICU beds, wound care, air surfaces, everything you would find, everything we use when we build hospitals. And we built a lot of hospitals all over the world, still do surgery centers, still sell a lot of medical equipment, but integrating a lot of the new technology in there as well. A lot of the new energy and frequency-based technology, photobiomodulation technology, far infrared technology, hyperbaric technology. Anybody that's in the medical industry knows that hyperbaric machines used to be $200,000. You had to blow out walls in a hospital to get them in, blow out a wall in a hospital to get them out. You can get really good hyperbaric technology now for about $20,000. It could go in your home. It can go into a wellness center. We're going to integrate that. And so we're going to start basically bringing medical professionals together with health and wellness people and bring them into places where they can come test drive the technology, see the technology, use the technology, and start incorporating it some perhaps in a practice, but also if you're looking at opening up health and wellness centers and trying to do that, having a place where all the technology is on display, where you can see, touch, and feel it, and sort of get a blueprint of what you might want to do based on different price options that you may have, budgets you might have. But the best thing to do is to start somewhere, start small, grow big. And that place in Richmond, Virginia, we've just opened it. James is going to show you a few clips, but we will have that up and running within the next 30 to 60 days. And I highly invite anybody that's out there to come visit us, come spend a day or two with us, utilize the technology, see what we're doing, and have some fun with us as we go about growing this technology out to the world. So James, thanks so much for having me back on once again for our part 2. And so anybody that's out there that's looking for more information on anything we spoke about, you can get more information off our website. We have a couple websites. One is www.usamedbed.com. One that's a little bit cleaner and probably easier to navigate is www.healthylifetechnology.com. If you contact us through email or you contact us by phone, just mention that you saw us on James's podcast. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon. James, thanks again. Great to see you as always. Take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.